Good evening. It is 5:31 on February 9th. This is the joint ARC and Covenants meeting. It looks like we have quorum from both the Covenants Committee and the ARC Committee, and the meeting was properly noticed. As this is a joint meeting, management will provide running the meeting. I'm going to pass it off actually to Eric just to provide a couple words on how we're going to kick it off with the structure, and then pass it to Nika to continue running the meeting.
All right, so I'm not going to be offering the benediction or anything like that. But I think first, from the board's perspective, and I think Charles will echo this as well, we know this is kind of the culmination of a lot of work from both teams. There's been a lot of review of not only guidelines that were recently published, also to guidelines that were not so recently published, that we're trying to really refine. And this is kind of the biggest full-scale change of a lot of guidelines of trying to get everything to a consistent phase, at least in recent years, to be able to do that, which I think is a good thing for the community. With that being said, we know that the guidelines are just that, they're guidelines. So we know that even things that we decide in this round, we might change in 6 months, a year, whatever. They can still be maneuvered around. Tonight, I think the main goal, what the board has kind of tasked us to do as liaisons, and then back down to the committees, is really to get feedback from these two groups on kind of what's out there, what's been proposed from ARC, and what we need to look at. There are questions that we want to make sure that either get answered if something comes in from the community, if something comes in from one of the committees, that we can then relay back up to the board, so that the board can kind of make a final determination on what we're going to do for the final design guideline. Keep in mind the timeline of this. We have put it out to the community for feedback. We have received a whopping one piece of feedback from a community group since it's been out there. Right, thumbs up. I'm not a complete liar. Okay, cool.
Garden club.
A garden club. So we had one feedback from the garden club, and it is currently out being reviewed by both of the consultative architects. So both Albert Riddle and Jeffrey Mowen have that.
You did receive my feedback.
Yes, exactly. So Covenant and ARC feedback. We have that. Yeah.
Gary's feedback.
And Gary's feedback. So
Don't say Covenant.
Gary's feedback. Got it. So we think that the rest of the community, like we all kind of expected, will get feedback when they actually have to use the design guideline. So until they go to paint their house or put a doorbell up or yard art, whatever they would like to do in that process. I think for tonight, really what we want to make sure of is that we get those comments back from the group, both from Covenants from an enforceability perspective on seeing, hey, these are the common things that we're seeing come up. This is what we think when we see the revised design guidelines, if there's a flag that we need to raise. And then also two, if we do get any more feedback from the community, that will be brought forth to the board, as well as anything that the consultative architects have to say in that regard. But with that, I think that we'll open it up. We'll try to walk through, and look, it's even starting on the screen magically at the same.
Maybe.
Nope, it may be not. But we're gonna walk through to kind of see. We'll open it up for feedback on what we hear from both of the committees. I want this to be as kind of collaborative as possible, but I also want to make sure that we're gathering those comments. So I'm going to be taking some notes during this time so that we can relay that back up to the board as well. Charles, how did I do?
You did great.
Excellent.
It's progress, not perfection. I think at this point, had it on this for a while. There's been a lot of work put into this, a lot of really hard work. We're not agreeing on everything tonight, but I think we just have to try and make the best effort we can to try and move these along. And there's always going to be subjectivity and everything, right? Because none of us here obviously manage this out. We're not in the field. But we're not out inspecting these, we're not the comments inspectors, so there is going to be feedback. So we just have to be nimble, we have to be able to evolve things. Again, it's impossible to achieve perfection right now, so in progress. So that's it.
Yep, makes sense. So perfect.
Angelica, do you want me to open up for comment or?
Did everyone have a chance to review Gary's comments that were sent over? Are there any, is there any feedback additional to what Gary shared?
Let me make an opening statement from the ARC side. First of all, thank you for doing the line by line editorial check. It needed to be done. I, being mostly the author, trying to pull things together, it was pretty much, I was overwhelmed with a lot of those things, and I appreciate everything that you have come up with. All of the formatting, numbers, paragraphs, all of those are, we've already started to work on. Well, I've started to work on getting them correct. And from pretty much that, again, thank you for doing all that. It needed to be done. And you know, and I do appreciate that. So from that point on, you know, there are things in your comments that you know, adopting very quickly as to needed to be done. Yes.
For the obvious inconsistencies in numbers, can we at least get those squared away before it's approved by the board? For instance, the difference between 8 feet, 6 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet. Can we
Yes.
at least get those consolidated and
Yes.
ironed out? Because my number one concern is active residents is the inspectors. The inspectors are going to be writing out alleged violations, and they're going to be all over the place because they're going to be using paragraphs that don't match each other. So that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I think if we want to start with that one, so in the landscape guidelines, there's the question in regards to essentially any sort of landscape height. So on continuous shrubs and hedges on fences located in the private zone facing the street, alley or driveway, it shall be no higher than 8 feet for standalone continuous shrubs and hedges. That's, I think, what we aligned on, right? We looked at 8 foot one. Okay.
Can you be specific and show me the paragraphs, because it's in there 3 different areas.
Yes. And all that we're saying is, yes, they say that they're different. What he just mentioned was the fact that that will be the amount and what we should correct it and all.
And
So 8 foot is what we would be going for.
whether it's standalone or up against the fence.
The only exception that's listed is a hedge acting as a wind barrier. Must be a height no greater than 12 feet. So that would be an independent one in that regard.
So what's a wind barrier?
It happens more commonly against a preserve area more than anything else, and it's not in between a home.
Right, but do we define what a wind barrier is? Because I could say wherever my hedge is.
Yeah, we don't. So
Or if I get a violation because my hedge is 10 feet tall, I'm gonna say, but it's blocking wind, right?
yeah, that's true. So I'll pitch that back with ARC when we look at shrub height. So I think the other piece with this is that we're gonna have to figure out there's the ones to your point on what is a hedge? What is a wind barrier? What is it if it's up against the fence? Are we going to use the same height for all of them? I think we just kind of need to decide on that.
Well, we did have the architect tell us that from his perspective, anything over 7 foot is not a hedge. So in one sense, anything that's over 7 feet already fails because it's not a hedge. Right? And on the other hand, everything's a wind barrier, so it doesn't matter.
No, not everything is a wind barrier.
Well, we
The
don't-
issue with this is the fact that currently in the old guidelines, there's the requirement to have vegetation, which is actually then causing 2 fences. It's causing a solid fence, which is mandated, and a live fence. Okay, so what we're trying to do here is not, you know, later on in that guideline, it's allowing people to remove the live fence because we're at an age point, a lot of these hedges or things that are up against fences or now freeze, a lot of the vegetation has died or has been dying. So ARC is then saying, give the individual owner the opportunity to decide if they want to have that vegetation against the fence. If not, that's fine. It's an option. But if you're going to remove it, you have to turn in a new landscaping plan, and that becomes your plan. If you're going to keep it, you have to maintain it. The question that you're asking though is, what's the height above the fence? The fence height, okay, is that, we're also gave the option with, fences being, they could be as high as 8 feet. They could be 6 feet. Again, we're opening this up to the individual owner as to what the materials and the size of the fence of what they want. If they want it 6 foot, it's 6 foot. If it's 8 feet, that's the maximum height that's the word we've got.
Do we have people with 8-foot fences? I guess we do.
Not at this particular time, but we've had actually, we're dealing with the fact that in ARC, we're dealing with new requests of Island Village, be it phase 1, and now we're being, opening up to phase 2. What's happening is a lot of the things were to, that here was the fact those people out there, okay, not in the legacy portion of Celebration, a lot of them have larger lots. A lot of them wanted to do different things. And the current guideline is, ARC's position was too restrictive, and we want to make it more, we want to open the aperture up to individual property owners being able to decide what they want.
Because people are asking for 8-foot fences.
Yeah, and it comes up a little bit more, as Steven said, with the larger lots, especially if they're trying to do any sort of like more of a visual screen or a recreation type thing where they want a higher fence height. If we get back to landscaping though, I think from enforcement perspective, an 8-foot height, someone can reasonably guesstimate if it's a standard 6-foot fence, which the majority of the fences in Celebration are in that 6.5, 7, but really 6 foot level. I can gauge pretty well what 2 feet over that is. Much beyond that, from an enforcement perspective, we're never going to get out a tape measure and measure someone's hedge because it's just not going to happen. So in those cases, it's almost that it's no longer a foot height requirement, and we need some other visual line that the inspector could use. So in those cases, there was a proposal eons ago that we say 8 feet for everything for that. And if we want it higher, if something higher, it would be considered up until the roof line of the home, the bottom roof line of the structure. But that wouldn't necessarily be like a hard and fast. It's always either roof line, or it's always either this. It's you apply for it, and it's whatever is based on the ARC application. It depends. If someone wants a 30-foot hedge that goes over their fence, and they really want to apply for it, they can appeal to the board, and the board can then say thumbs up or thumbs down at that point in time.
If someone's putting up, if someone applies to you and says, I have a hedge now, it's 15 feet, and I want to clear up to 20. Would ARC tell the neighbor this is happening, or the neighbor wouldn't know?
And is this prevalent? Is this something that you see frequently where, I guess, are you getting a number of applications for this in particular? And is this going to potentially offset that? Is that going to reduce the number of applications that you're processing that you all are looking at?
What the portion of, okay, be it windbreak or fence or height. One of the reasons that this started was prior to me being on ARC was 8 years of being in covenants. I was requested to appear at a board meeting to discuss the height of hedges or shrubbery or, next to a fence. And then there was the other issue of, the windbreaks. What has happened is that there was a standard. The standard is written today. It says 6 feet at the top of the fence. The issue though is that it was not enforced for years. I would say 10, 15 years or more as to where original vegetation that was planted continued to grow and nobody trimmed it. And so now we have things, and this is when I was in covenants, that were already at 20 feet. And we had questions that were coming into the covenant zone. Now, what happened was, is that I stated to the board, what do you want me, the covenants, to do to have the inspectors enforce this? Now, what had happened was 5 of the 7 board members at the time were non-compliant. And so I got a decision by having no decision. And so what happened was it couldn't be enforced. So it's still today, a problem because we have things that are way out of tolerance.
But they're not, besides the height, they're also not maintained regardless of how high it is. So,
Correct. Agreed. Now, when the issue of that, if you allow it to be 20 feet tall or whatever, be it now it's a windbreak, how is it being maintained? Now, obviously, I'm not going to do it. I'm 66 years old, but I'm hiring some landscaping service that's going to have some kind of specialized equipment, to make it square again, or do those things. 12 feet, except is within reach of either ladders that they have or whatever. But that's really what we're just trying to bring it back into
something
the spirit and intent of what the guideline was and try to enforce it. Now, the text says, if you're out of compliance, we're going to give you a period of time to get down to that. Don't just cut it off right today. You'll kill the plant. But, back it down over I forget what I got in there.
1 year.
1 year period so that, it could be brought back down into an acceptable.
So I think what I'm hearing is really there's a difference between a standalone, I'm going to throw out the windbreak word for now. A standalone hedge, landscape material, standalone landscape material of some kind versus one that's up against a fence. Like directly, it is the plant material that's directly adjacent to it. What I'm hearing is if it's up next to a fence, we kind of want it maintained at fence height. That's to be expected, right? It's there. If it's freestanding, there's no fence. Like, for example, this happens in my own alley in Artisan. We have podocarpus that people have planted because they don't have enough room to actually put a fence in. But they want some sort of a visual screening in between them and the neighbors so they can use their backyard. So they have a podocarpus that grows up. Well, that podocarpus in many cases is well over 6 feet height, 6 feet, in height. But most people are clipping it at that bottom roof line. Like that's what they're trying to maintain it at. Now, if it starts to get bushy or starts to lean over, that's a maintenance issue, in my opinion. That's where it needs to be tightened up. But I think if it's against the fence, we kind of don't want whatever the landscape material is to grow over the height of that fence. Or if it's above that, if there's no fence there, then it's kind of, we don't want it as a skyscraper. We kind of want it maintained in line with the house.
Is this prevalent? Is this something that we see frequently? So going
Yes.
back.
Yes.
Okay, so this is something from an ARC perspective, you're getting applications that take deviation to it. Health inspector.
It's
Or what? Or inspectors.
But we have very tall hedges that have been there for many, many years. So now I would say, whatever we address in this room, you'll be sending covenants out to address hedges that are of very tall heights that need to be cut down to a specific amount because of rule changes being made.
To wrap it up, my issue was in 3 to 4 different places in 2 different design guidelines. The numbers were not the
We
same.
were consistent.
So if now we are at 8 feet, then we have decided, and I appreciate it.
But what you were just saying, Jacob, so.
So but saying like we have people who have never gotten anything.
We're now
And
going
now
to
it's
track
just going, and when they go out in the fall with these new, they're gonna get written up and they're gonna say, well, where was it? Right?
Correct. So this, I understand we're not talking about the financial and the administrative cost of this But there is, right, there is going to be more citations, more non-compliance, more work for management, more letters that we're sending. So I think that's something certainly to take. Look, I'm not the technical person. This stuff, I rely on ARC and whatnot, but in my mind, I do get concerned when we're starting to create a backlog with the management side. Just speaking.
I think that if we say the size of the fence, it can't be 8 feet, the size of the fence, because mine is an 8 feet. If you're letting people in Island Village be 12 feet, hypothetically,
Okay.
then it would be the size of the fence,
No,
not
Yeah. The
straightforward.
maximum of what the fence is gonna be is 8 feet.
Because that would be different for
Right.
all people. If people who have a wrought iron fence might be shorter.
Yeah.
Now, the windbreaker issue came up for us on Grace. And Grace has a lot of houses on that street that have no fences and very tall bushes.
Yeah.
And we had 2 residents come, and they didn't want to trim the bushes. Well, but they always should have been trimmed because they needed to be maintained. Okay, you didn't maintain them, no matter what the footage was. So then we all got together in a meeting and my husband and I had a knockdown drag out fight because I don't believe in his answer about the height that it should be. So he says taller. So you guys say 20 feet, you're not gonna be able to gauge 20 feet
Right.
by standing out in someone's yard without a fence. How would an inspector know 20 feet from 16 feet or 12 feet?
Yeah, that's
I
why,
don't know that that makes a difference, but then you could also have somebody in covenants that gets a letter that says, my 10-foot fence, 2 feet over my fence, my real actual fence, is a windbreaker. Then what are we gonna do?
yeah, and I think that,
Or my neighbors don't have a fence, but they're allowed to have an over the site, over the house shrub, but I'm not because I have a fence. So they have more privacy than I am. I'll take my fence down.
yeah, no, and I think that that's, we need to figure out what we're comfortable with on, because no matter what, we're gonna piss someone off. And I think that that's the reality of it. I do think that from a board perspective, we know this, whatever we decide, no matter what it is, it's gonna result in more appeals to the board. Especially.
And then what will the board do? Because that's the next question. So if we as covenants uphold whatever this new rule is, and 25 people come in and say, I want my 20-foot shrub instead of my 18-foot shrub, are you gonna let them have it? Because if you are, just say 20.
The issue is if you start granting appeals across the board, then the design guideline is no meaning.
What is management?
Yeah.
So what is your feeling on it from an enforceability, training, consistency perspective? Because we've heard from both committees, but what are your? I want to hear about.
Shelley's point is an issue with going around and checking his grandfather, I'm sorry,
Right.
supposed to use that word, but
Right.
the height issue is going to be a problem with sorting that out, and
Actually, I think it's easier because you've made a decision. It's either 8 feet or 12. Right. So I think the inspector has 2 guidelines to follow. I'll go back to the original issue. You're gonna have a lot of people that are gonna encompass some money to meet the guidelines, so they're gonna come to the board for appeals. So really, the issue is back to the board. If you're going to grant appeals, and we see this, and you grant a dozen appeals in 2 months, then how are we going to uphold the guidelines? We might as well ignore it.
Why are we going
Yeah.
over the guidelines?
But here's one other thing that inspectors do. Also, what is part of not this discussion, it's if the individual wants to have a higher than what it states he. Okay. I have created, because the proper term is either a variance, one being that person,
Yeah, it's in the charter then.
it's in the charter. And we had no mechanism for this. It did not exist. So that's what's been done, is that we've created this thing and it's going to the board as because they didn't want to do that. The issue, what has happened though, is everybody's relying on the mechanism of appeal. Appeal means your inspectors have already gone through this thing. The variance request or exception of policy, one person each, one thing, is before.
No, because, no, right? No, they're gonna come to covenants. It will be. an
No, I'm
issue.
saying that they have not. I mean, when this thing gets dropped and they have, I don't want to do that. They can then make the request, you know, to ARC
Before violation, yeah.
before it becomes a violation. That's what I'm trying not to have everything dumped as a violation, that's a non-compliance. And that's across everything that's there.
Yeah, but we only have one person or one club up to this point. Are we sure these residents are reading it? Because I don't think they're reading it.
Well, no, that makes sense, and I appreciate that because we've talked about it
Yes.
before. We got a variance, and then for people who are not familiar with that caveat, they're gonna go the appeal way. But in either case, the board approves a variance or an appeal.
That's correct.
So I go back to my original question. If you're going to approve a variance and it doesn't so appeals, now what should we do and the inspectors do? I don't see there's a reason to follow this guideline when you're going to
Just grant it anyway.
ignore all of it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yes, I agree.
Because everything's more mature.
So,
So err on the side of higher rather than lower, or this committee will suffer.
But if someone comes and says, I have an 18-foot hedge and I want it variance. My question to them would be, how have you been maintaining it? Well, I do nothing.
yeah,
So how do you, and if you give a variance, that means today's height is the variance. So now are they actually gonna start maintaining it? Which is why you can't give a variance. Because then the guy's gonna come in and say, I have a variance, but you're not maintaining it.
yeah, I think everyone in this room knows the process, I think is the challenge. This is the minority of the community. I will tell you right now, I have, and Steven's really gonna hate this, I have bamboo in my backyard. It's an
Shame on you.
Me too.
Shame.
I've got you.
is
15 feet bamboo.
within the private zone, my home, inside the fence. Now, I will tell you right now that if I was not involved with this process, I wouldn't know to apply to approve to have it higher.
But did you apply?
But it's not to apply
Because,
for,
no, but did you apply?
No, because it's within.
according to the changes, you're saying we have to remove it.
Correct.
Well, that, at least on my street, there's a lot of people, including myself included, that have bamboo. It's a privacy fence. So what happens if you say we can't have it anymore?
Yes, ma'am.
You file
Do we have to remove it? Thousands of dollars that it costs to put it in?
And I think what will happen in that case is that covenants will write it up. Then the person gets upset and they turn around and then it becomes the appeal, because then they.
That's the appeal.
But if you do the process.
If
Or they
you
can
want to keep
file
that bamboo back.
I'm sorry?
They could file, if they get a letter, they can also go then file a warrant.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what happens with a lot of things, right? You know, like, oh, I didn't know that I could have this, and not just even landscaping, like, you know, I didn't know that I needed this, and then it needs to happen.
But they refer also, it's not clear, the bamboo, the tough, that it has the runners and stuff. There's clumping bamboo, and that's the majority on my street.
Sure.
It's all clumping, so it doesn't have roots. So we gotta make sure we address that as well.
Yeah.
So all I'm going to say is based on our experience, no one is going to be to willingly do a variance. They're going to have to get a violation in order to trigger them to do the application for it.
Right.
So it is going to be a split. It's going to be, why aren't we writing them out? Where we write them out, which is going to generate the complaints in the appeals. They're not going to go right with that variance.
But it's a sustainable solution.
Yes.
Once through the difficulty
Mhm.
after that hurdle.
But that's not.
I think the challenge is, and it is bluntly, the board will be inconsistent. Correct. I mean, I'm saying that as a board member, right? I mean,
I don't think we want appeals too, like, I think that's where
no, but
we want to try and curb some of these right now with.
And go taller than 12 feet.
That's the key word.
Well,
But they can't maintain it over 12.
well, but
They're not maintaining.
that's the reality. Because I think
so I think, okay, I'm trying to
That's
think
real
of
fence. That's a win.
if we can give if we come back to the root issue on height of said landscape material, whatever it is. And if we say it's there was concern on the same just fence height, but we wanted to say 6 feet.
Has to be 6 or 8.
It's gotta be 6 or 8, right?
Whatever the approved fence is, it should match.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what we were just discussing. Whatever the approved, whatever the fence is, that's what we could just leave, that's the height of the fence.
and if there's no fence present, do we just say it's the bottom drip edge of the,
Yes.
of the adjacent roof line?
The only thing is you're negating the design guidelines themselves, which design the houses to be seen. So if you're gonna say, I don't know why we'd ever go above 8 feet for a hedge. Because now if I'm a neighbor and my son is blind, whatever it is,
Sure.
you're altering the aesthetics of whoever's on the other side of that hedge. So I could see somebody maybe asking for a variance if they're up against the
Or conservation.
conservation area, but as a regular house, I don't know why anyone would ever need to be above 8 feet. And if they are above 8 feet, let them go explain why I'm above 8 feet, whatever that reason. Because no one's maintaining a 12-foot hedge, and if it's 12 feet, I understand the people that the hedge is like 5 inches above the fence, just instead of, if it's allowed at 8, cut it down at 7.5 at least.
Yeah.
So you have a little done.
All this
Right.
is an excellent conversation. Appreciate the give and take. I'll go back to my original concern. I cannot predict over a period of time what the board is going to do for variances and appeals. But in order for this to work, for both of us to agree, the board has to follow the design guidelines. In other words, you're going to have to disapprove appeals and variances.
Well, the
that's
board's
the-
gonna change though, so.
Yeah, and I think that the 2 board members that we have sitting in this room understand that. When we look at what we need to do, I can't promise what the.
You
rest
see
of
how
the
that
council
gets
is, But
management as well as the committee in trouble is when you don't follow our guidelines.
no, agree.
But I think if you make them greater than the original guideline, there's nobody that could,
Correct.
because you would say, well, if it were what it was, you would be in violation by 4 more feet. But
Sure.
because of the new one, you now can go to 12 feet or 18. So just- you're enforcing the better guideline.
And then it's not getting to us to then have to.
Well, so there's the surrender with a possible solution. Is we want celebration to be livable, but we also want it to be somewhat standardized, you know? So our challenge, and we've done great so far, is to find that happy medium. So it's less work on the board, and when the board has less opportunity to get crossways with their own design guidelines.
And it, not less, the right work, right? We want to make sure that we get, so we want the legitimate appeals, the things that really need the time and the attention versus something like this, where if we can put the right design guideline in right now, we could potentially, again, curb some of these right now, and again, cut down our costs, potentially, what we're citing, what we're having to review all.
That's what I said back in January. I don't want us to, all of us, to spend the next 6 months going through a lot of pain from residents who would then be discouraged and they can't trust any of us, the board or us, because we keep implementing a guideline that's maybe not conceived properly.
Sure.
You're not following it properly. If we can solve it now before we actually approve it by the board, it's all the better for all.
So where are we thinking with this? We had discussion, but where? How do we get that?
It seems like 8 feet is what we're all saying, knowing that there's
Height
going
of
to be,
fence.
or the height of the fence,
Or like,
and if there's no fence present.
Then you guys said 12, I would say 18, because
that's,
and the taller than that, they're gonna have to come down to 12. This is kind of meeting in the middle.
but the
It's also
problem is
taking less.
you can't maintain 18.
No,
You have to have specialized equipment that,
You have to hire somebody.
I mean, I could come to you with a variance and say, listen, I have a 17-foot hedge that I maintain meticulously, and here are my receipts every month that I come.
well,
That's not gonna happen.
that's.
Yeah,
I'm not trying, yeah, but the position was not to be complaining, was to try to just bring these things back from 20 feet or whatever they are that's around town that have grown too wide, too tall, and they're not being maintained, just growing.
So I think that's a good point with the wideness part, because I think the challenge, we look at this from a height perspective. 9 times out of 10, we actually don't get a complaint about height. We get a complaint about the thing sticking out into the street or the sidewalk, or it's on my property or whatever. It gets bad, right? When we look at it. I'm trying to think about this from an inspector's point of view. If there's no fence to guide the height of something, right? It's not like they're gonna get out a tape measure and try to figure it out, because they're not that close to the darn thing anyway. So we need some other object of reference. And I know that's why I keep coming back to the bottom drip edge of whatever the home is. And I know that could be a little higher in some cases than others.
But it is.
But it's something where, as an inspector, I can, you're standing in the public area, I can see, is that reasonably in the same area as their bottom drip line? Yes. If it's not, yes, thank you for throwing that wrench into the works.
And honestly, when
What
you
did
all
you
get
say?
expansion of a first
story. Because you could, what happens when you have the drip edge of a 2-story home?
But it's not, but if it's that tall, it's not maintained, so you're still getting a violation.
It was meant to be first story.
The 1st-story drip edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only problem with that is corner houses or alley bushes, because you won't be able to see turning into the alley if it's the corner house. And typically that would be at street level. I know this because we have a neighbor that has this problem with neighbors.
So in that case, it's impeding the street light, but the other part about it is that the shrub should not be at the edge of the property line in that case, because we would require it to be in.
That's already.
That's it, fine.
That's defined in the
I
guidelines
saw
already.
88%.
Okay,
You can't have trees in there.
then I say
There's
first story drip edge.
So the comment coming back, it seems like we would be all in agreement with, is that we standardize all heights for a fence. Next to a fence, near the fence, whatever, at 8 feet. And then the rest of it would be the 1st-story drip line or drip edge of the home, not line, because that's not what it is, but it's the drip edge of the home. I'm looking at ARC for nodding now. Is that okay?
Is that better than the one we have now?
The problem, we don't have one now. That's the challenge.
No,
Why did you say 12 feet though? Is that gonna be how?
The current design
The
guidelines,
inspector can't tell
which
which whole
is
speed
2017.
without.
But how's he gonna get a perspective so he knows for sure he's at the right angle to see it with the. And I don't know why you wouldn't be able to get 12 feet. You could certainly buy a tool and measure
On the sidewalk.
Yeah. Certainly you can do that. I mean, I know you can, but I don't know. I don't know why no one's ever done that before. But you could get a tool to measure that in the height of the object. And 12, I think you should be able, if you're doing an inspection and you can't surmise 12 feet, then you need training.
Yeah,
Right? I mean, I know I used to inspect surveys.
sure.
So I could certainly do that.
So,
But 12, if you're gonna say drip edge, why not just, I think unless you pick a number, you're just gonna be in a weird place.
I
this
think
is,
it's really easy for a resident to define drip edge over 12 feet.
oh, definitely, because it's definable, it's visual. This is excellent. Thank you very much. I think we've got a decision here. Stephen, if you would, my review here highlights every paragraph where that is issued. If you don't mind going through my guideline, it'll identify each of the 3 paragraphs where you will need to make that change. I don't want to miss one because then we'll have an inconsistency.
And I think for the purposes of the design guideline, we just need to remove any mention of something other than edge. So like not a wind barrier, not a screening. I mean, I know equipment screening is different, but it would be the same guideline. But I think that then that way, if we get someone says this is used for erosion control or something, okay, cool, let's have that one-off discussion. And I think that we can figure that out.
Well, there is a separate paragraph on standalone hedges without fence.
And that would be the drip edge.
Right, so that's where you insert that in language.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so if you'll just follow where I've identified the paragraphs that have that quantifiable number, you'll come upon the one that says standalone hedges without a fence. And you know what language.
Okay.
I think the other is not going to new phases, that's not gonna be setting inconsistent to the bill set should be.
No, because they're not gonna spend that much money to plant that mature of a shrub.
Fair.
I mean.
No,
That's.
that's fair.
So I think the only place that we could possibly see that is a tree that grows into a hedge.
Which is not gonna happen.
Which will be able to catch, you know.
Well, we do that.
Yeah.
Since we're already in the landscape design planning, do you want to continue with comments in
landscape.
that area?
Mhm.
Angelica, could you go to page 11?
Yes.
On the, so I think we're down to, if you look at, to continue there, on the same language, the fences and walls design guideline, don't go there, also has, the same paragraph. So you'll need to check fences and walls, page 6, because it talks about the same information. It makes certain mentions there. Then I'm just continuing through the same design guideline. Could we talk about page 4 of the landscape design guideline? And it's on page 13, Angelica.
The number.
The number is just a little off. What's the first sentence on the box that's facing?
It's page 4, scroll down.
The numbers are off. The numbers are off because
Oh.
they're edited.
Page 4, number 4, this whole paragraph describes applicability in the private zone. Keep going down. There it is. Scroll up.
This is Walsh.
There it is. One of 16.
Yeah. Okay.
If you look at the design guideline, this paragraph is about the private zone.
Yep.
But it's in the alley yard section. So wouldn't it make more sense to move it to the private zone right underneath it and take it out of the alley zone? Outline?
Is an alley yard always different than the private zone?
Yes, oh, definitely. So there's different landscape requirements, setback rules. But if you read the first paragraph, under private zone, I'm sorry, under alley yard, it says, the first line says, in the private zone. So why not just move that whole paragraph to the private zone, which is the next paragraph lower?
And
The same text. Okay.
Just copy paste. That makes sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, let's see, okay. Now we get, I'm just looking at the things I identified in this design guideline. Now we come to the bamboo issue. So I don't have an opinion, I'm just saying this is new. It came up a few minutes ago.
Can you give? I don't remember. This was.
Well, I had bamboo and it's a hedge. And I had previous businesses where we use it as a privacy fence. And I know from a landscaping perspective, it's varying things. If we used it as a hedge, you could box it in. And it's clumping, so it doesn't spread, doesn't encroach on anybody else's property. And I can tell you, on my street alone, there's at least 10 homes that have that. And I think around town, you're gonna find it as well. So if you start arbitrarily saying everyone got to pick out your bamboo, you know, about unhappy people.
And I know it's probably service areas, they sit in a square.
Very much in the service area. And it's very expensive to put it in to begin with. It's one of the more expensive hedges to put in. Why don't you like bamboo? I don't really feel we should say arbitrary, can't have it anymore.
Well, this started in a service area, it ran for about 6 months.
I know the property you're talking about. Yeah, okay. I understand that. Exactly.
And if you're willing, help me out.
Yeah.
Right? Something that is acceptable either by a species or whatever.
Yeah.
But again,
Yeah.
We're dealing with the fact that in some, yes, you're maintaining it. I understand. Your neighbor's doing it. But there are places that,
Well, I think we're talking about one isolated incident.
I know, but
Which is pushing against the fence line, which now it seems like we're now.
So we don't want to change everything because of that one thing.
well, no, it's not.
We can manage that piece.
Yeah, and that unfortunately, it grew out of that because we started having more and more of these issues with that particular plan. So the recommendation actually came from the landscape.
Well, I talked to him and we back and forth a little bit, you know. He landed up, I'm okay with it if it was maintained. I am.
Okay, and all I'm saying is, I'm just trying to find.
I don't want to deal
into this.
crazy.
Just help me out as to how we think we ought to write this, because the issue with it is that the stuff that we did have the problem with in that one service area should never happen.
I agree.
But we had a problem with it, with the house on East Lawn by the circle pool,
Yes.
where it is growing land.
Yeah, it's not maintained, absolutely.
Whatever you decide, my issue was this whole sentence in the current design guidelines was in the alley yard section. As we know, bamboo is growing in different areas of different people's houses, not just in the alley. So my recommendation was, whatever you write, could you put it in the general category, because it applies to all locations of anyone's home, not just the alley.
So question for ARC though, would you ever approve bamboo in a front facade?
At this point, I know we have since I, nope.
So,
Once we had it, one came through today, I agree. But it doesn't just, it grows in the private zone,
It grows in private.
and it
zone,
grows,
and
but you don't just wanna say, can't do it in the alley, you need to apply it to all streets. Or, as you say, if you're gonna allow it in some areas, then be specific to what area. That's all I'm asking.
I think the recommendation from ARC came to essentially, we want to get rid of bamboo. Because that's the recommendation for ARC. We know that there's enforceability issues with that because it's already throughout the community and there's people that might want to have it. I think this is something that we put to the board and we say, look, this is the recommendation is that we restrict the usage of this plant, that we just don't have it anymore.
This was Albert's position to remove it.
Originally, yes.
we had discussed with
Okay. Okay.
So I do think that bamboo as a plant has gotten more attention because of some recent issues that we've had with it. Sorry,
I think we're swirling. I mean, what I'm hearing from Gary in the guidelines that the draft guidelines that are posted read the use of all species of bamboo shall be confined to raised box containers lined with root barrier to keep it from escaping the container. Bamboo plants planted in ground planted as in-ground privacy barriers are no longer viable and should be removed and replaced with another appropriate plant. Gary's request is just locating this as a generalized statement or to apply it.
just in general. So
Yes,
it's not,
right now it's in a specific.
I see what you're saying now. Okay.
That's a very specific also. What happened with, but that's in the privacy zone.
If you're gonna outlaw it, it ought to be in the general section, not just buried in the alley yard section.
Sure, because someone then, okay, good point. Because someone then could go plant it in the wherever, but if I put it in a box, that might be okay.
Isn't this a good thing?
And so if that resident comes to the board and says to remove it costs $20,000, which it will for the guy on East Lawn.
I mean, those are the appeals we probably want. I think we have to hear those a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think look, I will say as a board member, one of the things that I rely on heavily is there a verifiable neighbor complaint? You know, is it come up? Something like that. I could have 1,000-foot bamboo hedge, but if it's up against conservation and it's trimmed so that it looks pretty and they're paying a pretty penny, someone to come out and clean it. Okay,
But the moment that it's not me doing that, yeah, then we got a problem. So I think moving this section to general, just having it apply generally for everyone is fine. And keep in mind, this isn't a streamline, this isn't something for streamline approval. If someone wants to do this, they're still going to put forth a landscape application to be able to do it.
So current homeowners, I'm sorry, that have bamboo, are they going to be told they have to remove it?
Yes,
That's, I'm sorry, okay, now that I'm, okay, that's gonna be a problem.
no, not for you.
Well-
It'll be a problem for the homeowner.
It will be a problem for them when they're
Well,
getting.
it's
I guess they gotta line it up and then they're gonna be the ones that get the first
It's
line.
very clear cut for the inspector.
It is, but then we have one home, if I'm like, if that's the home we're talking about particular, who's approved.
Yeah, but hang on a second, you're going down the road. Okay,
Yeah.
it's out for comments now. If anybody brings this up and I have enough comments, then it becomes that we have to change it.
Yeah, I
If nobody says anything about it.
Yeah.
Then it becomes, if they approve it, the board, then that's the guideline.
Yes.
I mean, we're giving everybody the opportunity to say what everybody wants to
This,
say.
this may be one of those that I think we have to monitor, implement, see what happens, and then again, if we're seeing that this is creating a lot of noise, I think you just have to take it back.
Well,
No, and feedback is important. I think we just have to, let it take, put this one out there.
Okay.
Sounds good.
General and.
Can I look at the next one? Could you scroll down just a half inch there, Angelica? What is the non-concurrent?
That's fine. I think,
Well, I have the CDDs, I have the CDD guidelines, I printed it out.
okay,
And I don't, this was in version 6, I don't know why we can't include it.
okay. My ARC's position right at this point is that anything that comes out from a quasi-governmental entity, be it CDD, does not go in a guideline. Okay? They specifically put it out as a governmental, it's like an ordinance, be it from the county or it's from the state. And so what it is posted in the area where guidelines are placed, and they follow that. Okay, because what
That's okay, I just don't think CDD is skirting its responsibilities.
there are some areas that I can take you offline.
Well, all right, anyway, it's here, we're causing residents to have to look at two different.
I understand, but one's a governmental document and the other one's an HO.
Just asking. On the next one, page 6, there's three different references about, mulch rings, and they're not the same numbers. So what is the new,
Okay,
is it 2 feet
I
or
went back and I corrected it. It's what we had before. I'm sorry.
what is the correct number now?
It should be 2 feet,
2 feet or
extending out to 3 feet maximum.
3 feet? Okay. And that's corrected in both places?
Yeah, it will fix this.
If, the dumb question, why would it need to be 2 feet?
Why does it need to be 2 feet?
No, can't it just all be 3 feet?
Right, can we take out the 3 feet?
Or could it take out 2?
3 feet is really 6 feet. It's 3 foot on one side and 3 foot on the other.
And that's bigger.
It's 6 feet.
Okay, so that's why you're.
For some, yeah, that's why in a lot of easements in Spring Lake and Island Village.
So we come back to just 2?
Yes.
So the question that becomes on the mulch issue is when mulch it's in place of landscaping, I think is the issue. Where, from an inspection standpoint, where do you see this a lot? It's just easement, really, right? Or
Is that prevalent?
No, we have so many writers. We do get a lot.
Really?
Yeah,
But not because it's too,
no, like it's missing,
right,
but it's not just in influence, it is in.
yes.
Side yard.
Yeah,
So I just need to be telling you how big,
Okay.
what is the biggest area? If there's only 1 foot variance
So-
on each side, then it's 1 foot.
most easements, to your point, a 3 foot is 6 feet essentially of mulch in a radii area.
Not split.
So that's That's essentially could be, so I have a little house and a little easement, that could be half of my front yard.
Or it could be all of my front yard,
Right.
if I had a tree.
So it's one of those things where,
It's a tree.
But I mean, it comes down to this, like you said, tree maturity. Because if it's, you know, a 5-year-old tree that's only an inch or 2 inches wide diameter, a 6-foot mulch bed, as they're saying, would, an inspector could see that, or if there's two, could see it as a bare landscape.
And the inspector is very clear on mature, I'm sorry, they understand mature tree versus.
Oh, yeah.
I should make sure that that's also.
The biggest issue we have is really with the tree roots and the roots.
Right, and if you have mature trees, like in the old celebration, the tree roots themselves are already wider than 3 feet.
right,
So they have no mulch ring. They can't even build a 2-foot mulch ring because the tree roots take up. 3
Then how would they be able to build a 3-1?
They won't be able to build a 3 ring at all.
Right? So 2 feet high.
It is for young trees. And of course, you remember we proposed it one time, to grow in some soil and grow,
Yeah, you did.
vines.
It's just something.
No, but that's.
Asthmatic dragons. Oh, there's one.
I don't know.
Hey, comments.
yeah.
Governance being.
Yeah.
Summon.
On the tree roots, do you want 3 or do you want 2? What's?
Yeah,
what's-
two. Two makes sense, but-
So what do we do with the trees that are so big that the ring now has,
Yeah,
won't sustain 2 feet? How does inspector, and I'm okay with 3, that.
You say 2 to 3 feet.
Inspector goes out, it's supposed to be 2 feet.
It's gonna be 2 feet from the tree trunk.
but every time we have the larger mature with the roots coming and they're supposed to have the mulch and then a rainstorm or anything, like this is a lot of it in spring, the conversations we have.
But they're not in yards, they're in the median, in the whatever,
They're in-
and it's not gonna be 3 feet.
Yeah,
So, okay,
So,
I think we have 2 issues. One is the mulch, we just don't want giant mulch thing without any sort of landscape planning. From a practical standpoint, really the issues that we see this are where the tree roots have the knees of the tree have come up. And that's really the challenge at that point in time. If you're training me to be an inspector, all right? I go out and there's a 2-foot diameter tree with 1 foot of tree roots. That there's, no matter what I put there, there's tree roots that are in the area. Where does my mulch ring start? Does it start from a tree trunk?
Always, it's always been the trunk.
And then you work your way out.
but there are places that they're so mature that there's nothing, it's just,
Maybe you could,
Sit there anyway.
yeah.
look on Front Street where those businesses are.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, where's the most mature tree in Celebration?
Academy Road, well, along Academy Road, it's quite a bit of.
Okay, then would a 2-inch ring go around it?
No.
Would a 3 inch? I mean,
If I'm an inspector, that's where, I mean, I assume you can measure.
Yeah.
Right,
You know,
yes, but
yeah.
it's really how much space we want to take up for the mulch and.
But in the ones you're talking about, Charles, which looks better, 2 or 3?
Great.
So
But then you got somebody whose
Well-
yard is only a 5-foot yard and I put.
I think
Case
so.
by case, that's.
Here's what I think we can do. Well, let me propose this. If you have a 3-foot max, that's our cutoff. Now, if I have 4 feet of roots at that point in time, we now have a root problem, not a mulch problem. So then that gets cited as you need to do something about the roots of the tree at that point in time.
You're saying your street, you're gonna take out a tree. No.
No,
No, you can
we don't substitute roots.
put landscaping.
No, we cite no mulch and no mulch ring.
Right.
For roots.
Yeah.
I can't cite roots, that's a natural occurrence.
Right.
In certain buildings. One solution we've been proposing for years is to throw a little dirt in there, not a lot, you don't want to cover the roof. But you can plant Asiatic jasmine and it'll.
It still makes a ring, the ring is still there. the jasmine is.
Yes, exactly.
Right, so we have to find helping to the jasmine ring based on.
So.
Two people are just.
Eric, we went over that. Maybe for this, like, sounds like we're. What is your, from an enforceability perspective, what is your, where is this gonna ultimately lead to the fewest questions, easiest way to train? Case by case.
And they take a picture and you come back and they have.
All right, how about 2 feet as the comment that we're gonna provide back to the board?
2 feet minimum.
2 feet. 2-foot mulching. Because if you give a range, it's a range at that point in time. We just need a number. And then if there's an issue that results from it, then we gotta figure out what the heck it is.
Conditional date.
Yes.
You cannot control that. So things gonna grow differently. Everyone will do different why.
Exactly.
So what don't you consider?
You brown, what do you get, by the way?
Round, yes, round. It's a 2-foot round. No, it's a good.
No, they go square and then what's that called? The easement, they go square, they square it off.
Right.
Well defined, you want to say, well,
And you know, it is what it is.
Well, the lines there.
No, I'm going off of what the old guidance has always said. It says it's supposed to be round.
Oh,
A ring.
a ring is round, yeah.
Just 2-foot round.
No, see, when the square, yeah, but see, the issue is that, yeah, I'm not going around the edges.
I can go back and
On a driveway around, and we've got mulch from the sidewalk to the curb.
Right.
Okay, and it's square.
Yeah.
Okay, the guideline is always, and I'm not the one that made it up, it's always been round.
But you can change the guideline, that's what we're doing.
the 2 feet.
2-foot round, and then we'll figure out.
Gary wants it to be square.
Gary wants to.
So does
I think you should have.
There's a variance process, Gary. If you're going.
If you're going to
There's an
change the
application for that.
guidelines, this is an opportunity. Because some people's easement is only 3-4 feet wide.
For sure, yeah.
Why couldn't we say the size of the easement? The width of the easement. So from the tree trunk to the tree, whatever that width is, that's the same width all the way around. Whether it's square or round,
Each village is different.
it's different. Oh,
The verge is different.
Yeah.
All right, 2-foot round mulching preferred.
No, not preferred.
Well, that's what once again, we're gonna take this and we're gonna pitch it to the board. This is what we're gonna say. So,
If we're continuing with this one, I'm looking on the screen, page 7. You've added aluminum and copper for metal edging. I kind of think that's kind of soft material for lower blades. Particularly,
The thing about it is, I looked at what the industry has put out there for edging,
yeah,
and those metal products are prevalent as to where people.
well, I know, but previously in version 6, you just said steel.
I said steel because that was the only thing I had found at the time. And now after doing more research, it's.
All right, I don't think they'll hold up under the power motor blades. I think the aluminum's gonna nick it and then be sharpened.
Well, they'll figure that out quick and replace it with something else.
But we can solve that problem with the design guideline now.
so we just want to remove the materials.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. Just make it metal.
It's just metal of any kind. It could be tungsten if they really want it to be,
And
you know, but.
if you do something soft, it gets eaten up.
Because to me, it's less about what it's actually made out of. I think the intent is ARC's trying to give people ideas on what to do to make it easier for them. But at the end of the day, we just care if it's maintained. If you want to put, a black whatever out there, as long as it looks the same. I don't care what material it's really made out of, as long as it's a metal.
Okay.
Okay.
Page 8 is just curious. The took out the 6-foot fences because you're just talking about fences in general, no matter what the height. The ivy or vine can grow through the lattice, but not drape over the top rail fence.
if you look at, scroll down to the next page, here's what this other design guideline says. So we need to make sure the language for landscape design and fences and walls match.
Right.
Which one do we want to use? Which paragraph?
I like the top one. One where it says it can grow on the fence as long as it's maintained.
I just think they're contradictory and confusing, particularly for inspectors. I quoted both design guidelines here, so you could make a.
So the question is whether or not it's allowed to grow through, essentially over the top rail. Top rails uses a measurement for covenants to look at. Okay.
Maybe it goes through it, yes, but not over. Because.
Sure it can. Today it can. It just has to show the fence post,
That's all right.
Right,
That's
that's just
current design
caps.
guidelines.
That's
the
just,
caps, yes.
that's only caps. What we're saying is keep the fence top bar. Accessible. Yes, no, that's.
No,
But that's the question we have.
you would have 4 people on my street alone, just my street, and I can tell you more on the others.
We have an inconsistent. Not for the proper answer.
What? I know how to be revenue.
So, okay, so we don't want it taller than the top rail. Is that the intent?
If you do that, you will have to kill it. It's a vine by nature. It grows within itself. So every sprout that comes off enhances the vine. If I take the top off of my fence, what is on both sides is not gonna live. Just to show
Yeah,
that.
Jackie, so if we cut it down to that bar, we kill the whole.
So do you allow
Well,
crazy
And
jasmine?
a
or do you allow no
landscaper
jasmine?
would never maintain it. I can assure you, because they don't like
So,
maintaining it.
so, but you're not getting to a solution. Do you then allow the crazy jasmine? Do you
You-
allow, you cut it and it kills it, or you?
If
continue
you allow it,
to
you
allow
should
the
keep
jasmine?
the fence caps out, because that you can still see, and that's what all of us are doing
The
today.
current design guideline allows you to grow over the top rail as long as the fence post at either end is visible.
Could you just say clean?
It doesn't, you don't make sure, it's like bamboo.
Okay, so ARC, so the concern from ARC on this is less about it growing over and it's more growing out. So
And that's a maintenance issue.
the
So
guidance would still be that if we change this, instead of it saying top rail, we keep it at the cap. But it's still, there's another, well, and actually, I don't know where it is anymore now. But it can't encroach on the sidewalk area.
If you read that, that's what we proposed in 2025. If that may be what you want.
That is not what we agreed to. I can assure you, because I would have been in.
Well, we didn't finish. We never agreed. That was just.
Okay, so we didn't agree.
Right.
We agreed not to agree. Okay, perfect. Because you're also saying vines shall not be kept off of the gate, which is fine. I agree with that. But it says trim back to avoid encroaching sidewalk and ensuring safe
Yep.
passage.
Right.
That, I believe,
It's the issue.
it was, the issue was the front side of the fence. So if you look at my home from the front, that front piece, you can't keep it from getting on that front piece. You just can't. It, by nature, that's what it's designed to do.
The first sentence only says that it could grow over the fence, over the top, on both sides, as long as the fence posts are visible.
Right.
And that's what.
Shall not extend outward on the public side of the fence.
More than 18
Always.
inches, more than
Okay.
18
Okay.
inches.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that wasn't up there, so I was thinking that was from very touch.
Well, it says can't touch the ground. I don't think anyone would want that. But
Well, it touches the ground on the inside.
But we we proposed 18 inches to give it that fullness.
Right.
On both sides of the fence. And then, of course, we added the part about the sidewalk can't be, encroaching on the sidewalk for safe passage.
Right.
That was to mitigate the 18 inches, maybe a little bit too.
Because I would argue that, not that I'm needing to do this tonight, I would argue the fact that that is my privacy, or I would just grow that bush up taller. So you're gonna get greenery up to the top of that, one way or the other.
Well, anyway, this is an alternative, if you scroll back up, Angelica, to what was proposed right there.
That's why it's green, except
Yeah. Okay, so that makes sense.
So what I just quoted is from the fences and walls design guideline on page 6.
Yeah.
And if you like that, and I'm asking if you like it, and you may want to modify it, a word or two, a phrase. Move that sentence to this design line so that they're the same. Or that paragraph.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Okay, so,
both paragraphs on both design guidelines should read the same.
yeah, that's,
It was noted.
yeah, okay. Makes sense.
Thank you. I think scroll down, Angelica. I think we already talked about this. Yeah. This was going to be, no higher than the fence.
Yep.
We already discussed that. Number 4, scroll down, leaving that, go back up so you can see the sentence. This is a separate paragraph. Does this conform to what we have already agreed to? I think we need to no higher than the fence or screen enclosure. And when we say screen enclosure, are we now talking about pool screen enclosures?
Yeah,
screen enclosure, yes.
yeah,
That could be 15 feet high.
That's the problem when you say go to the drip line.
right.
Well, I'm asking you, will, if we limit it to the height of the fence or the drip line at the first story, then we shouldn't say
So
screen.
the screen enclosure will be no higher, just for general purpose, general discussion, is no higher than the drip line of the first floor.
Correct.
Well, but it's a main.
I understand, but it also comes down
Yeah,
to where to the structure of the house, because
the vertical wall of the screen enclosure.
Do we just eliminate that paragraph? Because technically that would then fall under the same, we would then not put another caveat in it. It's just falling into the same one that we already hashed out.
Yes, please.
Okay.
All that, paragraph 4.
Yep.
Okay, let's see, yeah. Less confusion. That, the reason I brought that up was I didn't know how high a screen enclosure was gonna be, or if that's gonna be a major point. Now it's no longer a measurement point.
Right.
And this one is on page 8.
Never on that box.
I think it's
This one is 22.
Is there some, is that an addition there, Steve?
which one? Blue or green?
Is the green? Yeah, don't worry about the blue, we already,
Yeah, I'm already working this.
trees, branches or canopy shouldn't be. So you're talking about everything about the tree.
Yes, as to where you want a clarification as to what that was, we're.
You know, do you think this is something that we can demand the precedence?
Guideline.
Well,
So it should be, all this is saying is whatever tree or shrub or whatever should be 5 feet from my house.
Yes.
Or 10 feet if I live in the state.
in Spring Lake, across my street,
Agreed.
the house from the foundation to the sidewalk
And again,
is 10 feet.
I
You
understand,
can't grow a tree there
I understand,
and destroy the canopy.
but I can't see us writing it for every village. So again, back to the thing of saying it's a guideline.
Well, the inspectors don't know what to write up and what not to write up.
The inspectors are gonna have to be educated as to what to write up and not write up, because you can't write for every single street.
But if there's a tree already. Is this only for new tree? I mean,
No, this would be for the fact that if I've got a tree in my backyard, or I have it on the, side, the front, or whatever, and to include the CBD trees that are so mature, so they're 70 feet tall. And if I don't trim that back, it's gonna be poking through my window or through my attic or my roof. And so what happens is that if you don't sit there and put something down as a mitigation, hey, folks, look at this. So that when we have 65-mile or plus winds, it's not to beat somebody's house up.
the only ones who got the violations are the ones when it's touching, it seems.
Right, but those
We-
touching are going to be
Yeah,
closer than that.
we've only gotten covenants violations for ones that are touching the house.
I understand. I'm trying to bring it farther away so that when the winds are making the tree sway and go back and forth, that we're not gonna.
But what happens to the people who have a tree there now?
Relationship back.
Pardon me?
They're gonna get second.
So I think that,
Mine were original to the house.
Mine is too, I mean, this is gonna,
I think for this,
it's gonna hit a lot.
we're trying to help the homeowner
Yes.
on being able to do it. The challenge is there's gonna be some homeowners that don't want the help.
And if they don't want to help.
No, you're helping people who want it from ARC, who haven't planted the tree. You're not helping people on this side of the table who already have the tree planted
Understand, but what,
and who have been there for 25 years, because those two
What do you
trees on my house
Okay.
have been
what
there
do you
25
recommend?
years.
So what's
What's your comment?
Well, we did or didn't have this before.
we disagree.
This is new.
Was a tree like, when you talk about trees, is the tree like you have?
And it
Is
says
it-
you have to have the ornamental tree and this and that within your,
Isn't this the one you get CBD potential calls to?
No,
They're not expecting the.
But this will impact our hazard book. We must have a healthy tree and an ornamental tree.
How easy it can.
Now,
And we're not going to.
we have a question on the floor.
yes,
This isn't really an argument we want to have. I mean, we're trying to protect our residents, but I also think that there's a sense of awareness. And if a tree falls on your house or breaks your window during a hurricane, that's kind of a personal issue. I would be more concerned because of experience I've had of neighbors who have not trimmed their trees off of my home, causing squirrel issues or damage during a hurricane. I think that's where we need to focus rather than just telling the resident, hey, your tree's too close to your home. That's your own personal property. That's your issue.
No, I agree. I think we're becoming the nanny state. But by Florida law and almost every other state in the United States, if a neighbor's tree is encroaching on your yard, you have permission to cut it back at the property line, even though the tree is like, gonna be like this.
Oh, no, I understand. I just think once
So
resident.
I want,
Yeah, so like I have, like,
If somebody's tree is over your property line.
yeah, I get my neighbors all the time.
But what do you do with the zero lot line?
Yeah.
Well, you have the zero lot lines where someone has a tree, it's on my tree and it's on your house,
Right.
right? So you're trying to address a bunch of different issues at once.
that's what.
And I think that it's what I think they were trying to do here is because if you do this, it essentially pulls it in from everyone, you know.
I understand why we would do this. I understand that it is a good thing. However, it is only a good thing when you sit on that side of the table. It becomes not a good thing for people who already have the tree. If you want to make sure that people are not going to get in a situation where that tree is going to fall on their house, then you all, when it comes to you, say move it out 5 feet.
Well, it's not about the point.
It's, now, the issue with the thing is, if you wanna maintain that tree. Okay, and it's there, it's been there for 20 years, and do all that. Then submit it, you want an exception.
So
I don't want an exception. I want what was agreed upon 25 years ago when the house was
There
built.
was no agreement 25 years ago, the builder may have put it in. And the builder didn't do it right,
So,
So that's not my problem. 25 years later, never have been given, uh,
You just bought the house and not wanted to.
yeah.
I've never been written up for this tree before.
But you can't tell
And all
something-
because it has to be.
Is this something?
An
issue,
Alright.
it is an issue that is not been addressed.
All right, so from a training perspective, we have to train the inspectors, they're gonna have to, again, they don't have the tools in the field to be able to accurately measure some of this. This is a whole issue of people already out of compliance potentially. It's gonna create violations, it's gonna create pain. There's gonna be questions about potentially CDD trees, I'd imagine. I don't know if this is,
I just think it's overreach, that we shouldn't be telling homeowners I have to take care of their house, it's my property, I'll take care of it.
So if we, the intent behind this is to essentially make sure that the tree's not hitting someone's house at this point in time. Right now, the way that it's written is it just says it can't be touching the house. That's what it is.
That's what we're right for.
So if we want to come back and we want to say it needs to be maintained 3 feet away from all structures,
Mm-mm.
Well, how are you gonna,
You
but you
couldn't
can't
do it.
measure that, you might as well wait till it's touching.
Though, so this question, if it's the neighbor's tree that's touching your house, which what we get is complaints about that. My neighbor's tree is touching my house, do something about it.
That's a
Right.
violation.
Anything we write here, the violation would be on the person whose house the tree is touching.
It's
You're
their
calling
own
and
house.
saying that your neighbor's tree's touching your house would make us send out an inspector to send you a violation to get the tree out of your house.
Right.
Your property, not.
Why?
It's not even my tree.
What- Why would it, wait, if you have a neighbor's tree touching your house, you wouldn't get the violation, right?
But not the neighborhood.
The neighborhood, yeah.
I'm sorry.
That would be.
The communication team, if this is something that we're concerned about, why don't we just have the public communication?
So then you would just, okay, so then it would be.
Okay. What I think we're hearing from ARC is that this is, I'm gonna throw things at Steven. We're just gonna remove it.
yes.
Thank you. Sorry.
Cause we already have it, if it gets to the point you were touching a house, they get the thing anyway.
Okay.
Rather than try to measure 3 feet from the house.
And again, like if this is gonna add 5-10 more minutes to each inspection, like it all adds up, just I got the cost of doing this.
So we've gone through one design guideline on the inconsistency clarification issues, and I really appreciate it. I thought this was valuable. Do you think so also? Did this solve some issues?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to continue this because I think it's worthwhile. If Eric and Charles think that this was important, it would allow the board to approve something better than it was an hour ago.
So it's 6:54 right now is the recommendation. So we're not gonna be able obviously to get through all of these, right? We've got through about half of them maybe.
One.
We know one.
Out of 36.
That's not.
Did we?
Pages.
I'm interested in knowing was this valuable? But I thought it was because we came to some conclusions and saw some inconsistencies.
I think that, and bluntly, this is one of the most complicated ones, is
Right.
landscaping. I think the next most complicated one is probably fence, which we've hashed half of it out already.
Yes.
But because of this. Where we're gonna need to figure out what the heck to do is where do we go from here? So.
That's why I asked if you thought this is valuable. I'd like to continue this in future meetings. Because we have solved some issues and it'll make us all, management, committee, the board look better when it's finally approved.
So our next steps from a board perspective is taking this, reviewing it, signing off on it, and then publishing it to the community at least. So one at a time, basically, depends where we have to take this, because we're never going to get through this.
Well, can't we do fences before 7:30?
Oh, sure, I know, but
Can we get your fences?
yes,
Then the other ones, we could just provide feedback. Or maybe one meeting would solve the rest.
I think more than one.
Well, let's try to do fences.
So I think, and I don't mean to put this harshly, but what are the other big ones that we have?
lighting,
Lighting is one,
fences, lighting.
okay,
Believe it or not, there's one issue on dish antennas that can be solved easily, but it's a huge issue.
Well, that's part of the discussion. You've got it in two places. Either it's removed from rules or it's removed from guidelines, but it can't be in both places.
Well, we need them to be consistent and right now
No,
they're
you have
inconsistent.
either one or the other, and I feel it needs to be removed from rules because it has to do with architecture.
I agree, that's, something the board can take up, but right now
That's what our
they
recommendation
don't
is.
match.
Well, no,
So can you guys start that right now?
no,
No, I mean, these two.
I
Not
tons of
about
that.
everybody's participation.
So
I'm believing democracy. I don't think any one person should make a decision.
So, but to Eric's point, the big ticket is the landscape, right?
Yep.
So what is the next, and I'll look to Danica, what is the next most frequently after landscaping? What are you typically seeing that we get attached potentially now? And also there's gonna be the rollout strategy with the inspectors, how do we phase this out?
Mailbox
How do we,
meeting,
so if we start pumping all of this out,
it's on most written up.
I don't
So I
know.
was gonna say, so twofold, on the covenant side, the other big write-up is lighting.
Okay.
That's an issue. I will defer to the application coming if there's on the interlock that we get, but,
It's the garden lighting though, right? That's what.
well, no.
It's all lighting.
Yeah, yes.
It's just lighting,
Okay.
period.
Because we
Yeah,
have
but
recent
we
was
have
like,
the uplights.
And that's consistent. I know we've seen street lights come through people's several times.
But there's a few homes that are like.
So are we able to at least come through lighting potentially? Would you thought at least maybe? Landscaping lighting for these or
I propose additional meetings because I think
You
it's
know,
productive.
lighting. Wanna do
It's
lighting?
your choice on what you want to
fence, we got, fence, we got
I'm going
nothing.
with
We got
fences and
nothing.
walls since we're happy.
So honestly, I think we're really close on fences.
Sensitive lighting is the big.
So let's jump to fence real quick now and see what we have. So on the fences and walls design guideline, what are the major concerns that anyone has on these guys?
Would you like to look at the list here? Go to the first page. Wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
Construction. There's, new proposals on the materials that a fence can be made of.
Yep.
And if you look at this fences and walls, design guideline is now 42 pages long. And if you look at the back of it, there's photographs taken from online magazines that show fences and walls that aren't matching the pattern book.
Wait, pattern book is, we've got to work to the design guidelines, whatever gets approved,
But
become version 3.
what I'll say is, you're proposing fences that are all made of, steel, wood,
Yes,
and stacked stone. We've never had stacked stone. Like that.
why can't someone have that?
I'm asking if that's something that you want to, add.
You know, like, decorative mailbox things are stone.
Aren't they usually just the pillars?
Huh?
When you say stacked stone, do you mean just the pillars?
It could be, yeah, stone pillars, or it could be at the near.
Got it, okay.
So I want to be clear, we understand that from an ARC perspective, we're proposing new materials. Like that's the idea, is to be able to get those. I think from the question on enforceability of said materials, we need to figure out I know, Gary, you had flagged in here on understanding the difference between like PVC versus vinyl and those type pieces as well.
Right.
And we just need to either keep it consistent with it, so it has those PVC or vinyl, because those both look the same. The rest of them, I mean, an aluminum fence versus a stone, those all look different.
That's all I'm asking. I only have two issues. One is I'd like to include the word PVC/vinyl, so it's consistent among all the design guidelines, rather than just PVC or just vinyl. But here's my other issue about, using pressure treated pine or cedar. Remember, we're allowing vines to grow on fences. How are you gonna continue to paint it if it's covered with a vine?
That's the owner's responsibility to figure out how he's gonna do it.
So we're gonna write them up. You know, right now we use, iron, which is coated at the factory, which doesn't rust, and PVC vinyl, which you can pressure wash. But now I think we're making it hard for a homeowner, where we're gonna write him up after about 5 years when the wood is, paint is chipping off, and it's growing mold, and there's a vine covering.
So what do we do in the case of a home that has a vine growing on the surface of the home, like at the stucco of a wall, and then it needs to be painted? This is the same situation.
Yes,
That
they have to take it down.
And they have to take it down and maintain it.
Right.
So it's the same.
Do we have many wooden fences?
Yes, there's one on, what's the street right out here, South Loop,
Spring Park.
Spring Park Loop. You go all the way to the end, 2 houses from the, water side. There's a lady with a wooden front white picket fence that has a line going all over.
Yeah, and I
But it's white picket,
Wood, yes,
right, but it's not
it's not cedar.
pressure treated pine or cedar.
no, but it needs to be painted,
White.
but there's a
Well,
line.
but you seal those with the
Sounds like- That's not just
stain.
me.
Are we
Yeah.
saying stain or only paint?
Yeah. So I think we get it that it's a maintenance issue, then but honestly, if the homeowner's signing up for that maintenance issue, they've signed up for the maintenance issue.
But are they allowed, so when it says colored, so what about on the wood? Is that say natural wood or is that typically most of the fences at least around here are white?
No, they've been mandated to be white. What this is doing is allowing people to choose. Do they want to have a composite fence that is either going to match or complement their home?
But might not be white.
Yeah, it is a nice aesthetic look, just like when I think about all of my neighbors have fences and it's a nice that it does continuously go white. Like aesthetic, and I know across the street has a darker but lower wrought iron, but I guess that'll be,
Well, they submit the design.
Yep.
See if it makes sense. I mean, it's a little
We have a lot
different than houses that are more distant from each other.
Right.
One thing I would say, being from Missouri, is a pressure treated fence that is made of wood. The inside looks different than the outside.
Mhm.
In Missouri, the people want to see out their back door, the nice side, so they turn it like this. So the crappy side, the neighbors look.
Yeah, it's in the design guideline that states.
I'm just-
The best side has to be faced towards the public tone.
Well,
Area.
to end up with this one right here, the only item I mentioned was, is it okay to use the word PVC and vinyl together?
Yeah.
So moving to the next one, fence construction. If you're allowing stone veneer or stacked stone, do you want to include that in the materials permitted list because it's not listed now? There's a paragraph about materials not permitted, that's okay. But under materials permitted, it doesn't list the fence construction items that you've now allowed, natural spec stone or stone veneer.
So you're saying that to add those phrases in, that they're acceptable materials?
Yes.
That's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, use of veneer means that you could build a composite fence, and then you can attach the stone veneer to it, and it's gonna look like a
Stone
stone
fence.
lid,
Yeah, it's gonna look like a
stone wall.
stone wall. Okay.
So here's the fun part, which most of the stone veneer today is attached to a cement block wall. We're fine with that. You can attach it to marshmallow paste and all we care as long as the outside of it looks like this and it's maintained, right? So in the construction process, we don't actually care what is inside of it. we care about how it looks. Right, okay.
So you're gonna have somebody's brown painted fence or stained brown fence next to my white fence. And then you're gonna have somebody's black fence next to that, and then you're gonna have somebody's stone fence next to that.
That's an overwhelming amount of homeowner comments made.
Yeah,
Well, either way, they'd have to apply, so there are, I would assume there's time to get it for.
I love all the stuff that can be pressure washed, but I am not into the wood. Sorry, I love you, but just have to put it out.
I'm just, industry materials.
I'm good.
all right, well, any other concerns with fences? We tackled fence height already.
I'm looking at what's on the screen now. Are you removing that sentence you proposed about compatible with each other?
Yes,
Because
she just mentioned, that's why we're removing it. One could be a white vinyl PVC fence. Or it could be a composite fence next to it that's color green.
so scroll down.
Yeah.
So that sentence there, those two sentences there in blue are now removed. Are they removed? Okay.
I mean, I said because two houses can't be the same color. Are we going to say that can't be two of the same fence?
But they'll be.
Yeah.
That's, they'll be looking at it anyway, right? So they'll be.
Correct.
Yeah,
So-
we're not saying we're going to stand, yes.
Yeah.
So here, page 2, in the fences and walls design guideline, it says private zone fences can be 4 to 8 feet tall. We just decided that they could be 6 to 8. So that sentence will be corrected to 6 to 8
What's a private zone fence?
around your private zone.
Just too yard.
So
Fence around your private zone.
there is.
Right, but there are 4 feet ones that are the white picket fence.
That's in the front zone.
And we increased
That's
the height.
not the private zone, that's the front facade.
Right, okay, so there's a black wrought iron one in East Village around, and it's not 8 feet.
That is it in the front facade?
Yes,
Yeah, that's okay. Front facade fences can be
Up
up to 3.5 to 4. We're gonna get to that, but
but
it's,
we're not saying
This-
6 to 8 feet tall. We're still saying 4 to 8 feet tall.
because the private zone is this back here, behind the front facade in
Right.
reality.
They have a pool, they have a wrought iron fence.
And this sentence
And
only
it's-
provides to the private zone. So, and we already agreed
Oh,
it
but to
to
your
be
point,
6
it's
to 8
not
feet.
tall enough, right?
Right,
Okay.
okay.
So 6 to 8, the opacity of,
Sorry, hang on, I gotta go back. So from a enforcement standpoint, though, there are 4 feet fences located today in the private zone.
Yes,
So what happens in those cases?
they should, they're being worn out.
When they go to replace it?
And they're not replacing.
Okay,
But they won't get cited for it, even though it's in the guideline.
If it is, okay, I don't want to use the word grandfathering because I'm the one that's started, but if it is currently there and standards has a picture of it and it exists, then.
But so does my tree, and you just said you were gonna say no.
well, I think a tree is a little bit easier to trim than a fence. I can't make the fence grow.
But I'm not talking about trimming, I'm just saying in general, you're, that was the discussion. So if in this case, this discussion is if they have a 4-foot one, why can't they replace it with a 4-foot one? If that's what they have now and that's what's been approved for 20 years. We can't put 6-foot fence in the front yard,
no,
and that's where most of them are. The little white picket fence.
Yeah.
Sam, this, sorry.
they're 3.5, maximum 3.5 feet.
So they either have to take it out or replace it.
That's front facade.
Well, why don't we like 4-foot fences in the private zone?
Why don't we?
So, well, that's where I'm confused, because today it's written, it's 4 to 8 feet in the private zone. So the 4.
No, that's this design guideline.
Yeah.
In the previous design guideline, we said private zone fences are 6 to 8 feet high.
Right. Not-
Sure, okay, so we're allowing people to have a 4-foot fence blanket now, because there are have some that have been approved.
we need to make it consistent with both design guidelines. Whatever that is. We just agreed an hour ago that private zone fences are 6 to 8 feet high across the board. I didn't know we had 4-foot fences in private zone. And,
But if we're approving them,
well, but this is contradictory.
Well,
This
if
is
you put a 4-foot fence up,
contradictory to what we just
on the
decided.
hedge should be.
so can't you just take it out of here? So since we've already adjusted in the first one,
Yes.
That's what I
Well,
make it.
no,
and then it doesn't say anything about 4 foot, so the person who has a 4 foot can keep it. And when they have to replace it, they either replace it with the same thing or they put in an ARC for something different.
but I think the difference is that we're in the fence guideline right now, not in the landscaping one. And the fence guideline has to have a height in it, because I can replace a fence without talking about landscaping.
Then I would say 4 foot for those that still have a 4 foot fence. We don't want to make somebody forced into either staying their grandfather or taking it down and causing a lot of problems.
What about a fence height not to exceed 8 feet?
Perfect.
Yes. Right? Because here's the thing, I hate to say this once again, these are all gonna come to ARC. They're all still gonna be reviewed. Yeah, yeah. So, okay.
So,
Right.
so that sentence at the top of the screen says private zone fences may not exceed 8 feet tall.
Right. Correct.
Okay, and in the middle of the screen, that blue line will be deleted. Private zone fences may be 4 to 8, that'll be deleted.
Right. Right, also, not to exceed 8. Right, okay.
What?
The opacity part, where it used to be a requirement that you had, it was a, 5x3, I don't even know what it is, but there used to be a
Yes.
per person, there used to be a part of the fence they had to be able to see through, and that's been. So, yeah.
The sentence in the fences and wall design guidelines that was under opacity is now deleted.
Correct, yes,
Okay,
because you're allowing all those other materials.
It would be that height anyway.
okay. Now, the next section, page 5, now talks about the front yard.
Yep.
Shelley's been telling you about.
Hmm?
This is now about the front facade.
Right.
If you'll scroll up a little bit, Angelica, to where the 12 landscaping's at the top, okay, that's pretty good. I'm confused. Right here, it says a mulch or gravel bed in front of the fence without plant material is not permitted. Well, that makes sense. I don't want bare ground
Right.
to be
So what,
between the sidewalk and fence.
correct. What we currently have right now is that we're forcing, and we've had multiple issues over the years, with fact that whatever the plant material, flowers, short bushes, this, that, whatever, have become such an issue that I'm saying that you now, the homeowner, would have the option of either just have sod to the sidewalk and the fence is then installed in the grass. So that means that you eliminate whatever the plant material is out there, which then eliminates mulch, and you don't have to have that.
Well, if you're, the new sentence, I'm reading in green, when the fence setback is less than 24 inches
Yes,
between the sidewalk and the fence, mulch or ground cover is required, but you just told me up above that mulch is not permitted. They're contradictory.
If it's less, so I think the intent is that if you have too small a space, so if it's less than 24 inches,
Yeah.
then we're okay if you put mulch there. Yes, no?
no,
You
No,
know, bare ground.
it would just be grass, sorry, it would just be grass or ground cover. You want to put jasmine, go for it. But if it's greater than that, that's when we require some sort of a plan.
Say that again, one more time.
Did I say that right? Okay, so if it's less than 24 inches,
Yep,
then
it's what's required.
either grass
Uh-huh.
or ground cover of
Right.
some kind to be able to put there. So like jasmine or something like that. We don't require a plant. So like you don't need an annual or perennial or something or a shrub. If it's greater than that, if it's greater than 24 inches of distance in front of that, then we do require some sort of landscape material, like a shrub or a plant or something.
Have we, so gravel is new though, right? Gravel's a new term. For,
Gravel is a
I know we've had some stones that came.
gravel, some
Yeah,
I'm
You
thinking
talking
of
about
like.
pea gravel or like what? There's a difference.
river rock. There you go. Yeah.
We need to clearly define river rock.
Same grass.
Here's where, I was confused and you've corrected it. Because seeing, 1, 2, 3, 4 lines from the bottom in green, originally it said if the fence setback is less than, let's say 24 inches,
Mhm.
no grass is required. That would have been bare ground. You corrected that by saying, wait, you gotta have grass. You see where my confusion was? So there is a huge
Let me ask a question.
problem there and you fixed it tonight.
24 inches is only 2 feet.
Yeah.
What do you think of the consideration of we make it 36 inches?
Well, we have both the celebration. I've been in North Village when it's literally 6 inches between the sidewalk and there. But over here in, South Village, I just drove by it. It's 2 feet.
I know, but what I'm saying is that if it's greater than 24 inches, instead of it being the 24-inch marker, that's only 2 feet.
Yeah.
If we extend that to 3 feet, is that, that's a lot of,
It allows you to plant larger plant material,
yes,
like pothos or
that's what the issue is.
something. Well, what do you want it to be?
I'm okay with the 24. I'm just
The real issue is we can't have bare ground.
No, there is no bare ground.
So it's either gonna be plant material or grass.
Yes.
Does this help? Or no?
So,
No, this does. help.
this is, the issue is bushes don't live.
Bushes don't live. That's
So, and this is allowing sod.
Yes.
So I'm getting, if it's under 24 inches, ground cover, sod, or hedges are required.
Yes.
You know, take out
This section is-
Oh,
No, it says or hedge,
or hedge.
Is
Yeah, if you really want to
required.
put them there, you could.
Yes.
more than.
Yeah,
There's be something there. Yeah.
I mean,
the issue is it can't be mulch and gravel or bare dirt.
No.
Right.
Right.
This is great. I just, originally it said no grass is permitted.
I know, that was
What?
that's the old, it was the old.
Okay. Solve that problem. Next, page 6.
We're leaving that homeowner negotiated thing there.
What about? I'm not reading.
Oh. Well,
Or both homeowners negotiate and document a handoff from the 0 lot line.
Yes,
Yeah,
we have.
this comes up.
it's a
We
legal
need,
thing.
we need to put guidance out. That's what the
Yeah.
issue is.
For those of us in Spring Lake, it's in the supplemental declaration.
Well, I understand. But
And this set in yours, what you
Okay.
signed says this,
Yes,
this exactly.
well, in legal terms, by knowledge.
So we have a flag for what happens when the person moves. And that, I guess, has come up. Where it's a resale situation and now the new owner doesn't want a said previous agreement. And I guess they don't even know about it, because that's not something that's disclosed.
Normally, that would be. Normally, if you had an agreement that affected, you're talking about a 0 lot line or a shared area?
it's,
Could be either.
It's like we put a gate between you and me and our dogs get to run in your yard and your dogs get to run in my yard.
Well, normally you would have
Oh.
you could either reflect that in the deed. Normally you record an agreement, an easement between two units.
There's no easement between the two units, that's the problem.
Well, but you're creating one, right? So,
I'm creating a setback. What has happened is that, for instance, somebody wants to put a fence up. And then somebody else wants either to have a gate or whatever that matches so that they, and all we have is a 3 foot, area, I mean, linear from the wall to this. And there's not been any discussions over it. And so what they're facing is either during the resale or somebody wants to put in a fence and it needs to be worked out. And I don't want to adjudicate it. I just want to be able to sit there and say, you need to work this out.
Why would we just be?
well, normally if it's gonna be a permanent fence, the two neighbors would get together.
So why wouldn't we just be silent on this altogether? And it's ultimately gonna shake out in the resale process and through the legal process. I'm not understanding.
Because it's not all in the resale.
No, because it's Spring Lake. Time out. When I first started here, we had an incident, I forget the neighborhood, but two homeowners agreed to a trellis and a nice walkway or something or another. It was approved, those two owners agreed to it. New owner came, he took out the trellis because it was on his property and he changed the whole landscape back to what he wanted on his property. And that created an issue for the other owner who enjoyed the trellis and the walkway and the thing.
I got one.
Well, but that's.
But that didn't come up in the resale, it didn't come up until after.
Yes, but because they still each have their own rights.
Right.
Well, if the two people really wanted to resolve it, they'd have to file a document. So the title
So-
would say,
So-
there.
We can leave it as is, as written here and proposed, but if both homeowners negotiate and document a standoff, the document has to be recorded at the county level and then provided to ARC. So then it would come up in a title search for
And
the
then the
property.
buyer would know that that's
Now,
part of the agreement.
knowing that this may discourage some people from doing that, because
That's
they're gonna say,
good.
oh, the hell with it, I'm not gonna go through that process, just put up a chain fence, but I think that's the only real way to make sure that this comes up somewhere other than putting a burden on management.
Then they'll understand it's a little bit more of a process than just putting it up in handshake.
Yeah,
With about a 5 minute warning, we did want to jump back to one item, which was the one we were just talking about before this. When we were discussing the 24 inches or 36 inches. What comes up in violations is, this is about like it's a fence, sidewalk, it's really good because fences and sidewalks,
Yeah.
not that there.
Mhm.
Our request was that it could go to 36 inches of salt to allow sod, everything stays the same, it's really just
3
allowing
feet
sod.
back from the sidewalk is when the fence would start, and it would just be sawed over.
There are some homes that it's,
If the area is if it's more than 36 inches, then it's keeping the current rules of a landscaping bed, but under 36 inches.
36 or less.
Yes.
Right.
36 seems like a lot.
They have to move their fence. I mean, these are not for new fences, this is only for new fences because anybody else would not want to move their fence.
No, but if
Or
somebody
12
only
inches.
has 2 feet, like the house by us that is 2 feet, and they just can't get anything between the fence and the sidewalk. Just
You can't get it,
doesn't
yeah,
work.
you can't get it to grow.
So they could at least get rid of those little dopey plants.
yeah, but there's
Just put it up.
24 inches.
Yeah, why would we need 3 feet?
3 feet's a lot.
Yeah, that's.
And that's only 24 makes sense.
Yeah.
24, bumping it to 36, that's here.
They should be able to maintain a plant and a mulch.
You can fit on there. You can fit flowering, there's a lot you can fit there.
Management wants 36. Why do you want 36?
It depends on the home, and that's, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Sorry.
We're talking about service areas. Service area, okay.
But what makes, because
So there are some homes where it's just the front of the home that has a little 4 foot picket that's just so tiny.
Yeah.
The 2 feet back,
This comes into the fact in.
2 feet
areas where
better
the
than
private yard against the fence as well, and they have a hedge that can grow up to the fence size, whether that be 8 feet now.
not in the front, not side.
No,
But
it's not
front
private yard.
It can be 4 feet in front and side.
Right.
Okay, so this is just with front.
Yeah, just a front.
Just-
Then it is 5 and 20.
yeah, just for the front.
Well, line 36.
Nah.
Disregard.
Disregard.
Okay,
So we're back to
24, we're okay with. And look, here's the other thing. I think this is based on, look, we can't get anything to grow. And so if we find out that we see that 24 still ain't working in 6 to 8 months, we move it. Okay.
And that's what I'm working.
Yes.
Do we want to wrap up?
Okay, so looking back, we're back here with, we figured out the distance that we need and we figured out the, we're gonna add in a line here for whatever, if you're gonna make an agreement with the homeowner next door, it's gotta be documented with the county, not us as an HOA.
Well, you have to approve the building.
We're okay with that.
You'd still get it, but you have to approve whatever they're putting there.
Correct, we would still ask for that. And that's not uncommon, there's other times when we've asked for that as well. Anything left on fences?
Yes,
Okay,
but we're running out of time. Based on your consolidation of dates, we had about, what, 8 different dates to choose from? Is there a majority for the next meeting?
The next date that we have consensus is March the 2nd.
March 2nd? Is there another date that was good?
March 9th,
March 9th?
March 11th,
Are those all good for all of
March
us?
18th and 23rd. We have forum on those dates that I gave.
Say that again, 2nd, 9th?
2nd, 9th, 11th, 18th, and 23rd.
Please tell me I'm just reapplying to these committees. So we're gonna be seeing committees for some.
So is there
Well, I mean, we're gonna have to.
nothing left for February?
Cross off the 11th, please.
Oh, is there nothing left in February we can get back together
Not based on.
No, not based on forum, no.
and
No.
availability?
Yes.
Well, all right.
So it's the 2nd or the 9th.
For these.
I can only do the 9th or the 11th. I will not be here on the 2nd.
So the 11th works for me.
Well,
Night this time.
I thank everyone.
okay,
Eric, what are our steps from the board perspective? Like, where are we wanted?
so look, I'll be real transparent. We're gonna have to go back to the board. We're gonna have to say Plan B now is out. So we're gonna need to come back and I think that we can confidently propose the landscaping design guideline with the modifications to then be voted on at the meeting and then, because remember, we still got Albert that's gonna weigh in on that as well. So that'll have to be hashed out. If anything, red flag comes up at the board meeting, then that goes out for formal community notice. That starts the, 45-day timer when they go out for the formal notice period. I think we then need to come back and I think for the next meeting that we have, we're gonna need to figure out which design guidelines we want to tackle. And I do think that it needs to be in order of where we see the most issues. So I heard we can finish probably fencing during the next meeting
Yes.
and then lighting is what I'm hearing would make the most sense.
There's 2 or 3 lighting design guidelines. We'll just tackle all of them because they interconnect.
Sure. So I think that's a good idea. So I think what we could ask and understand that committees are going to turn over during this process too. So hopefully everyone still applies. So we'll see what we get. But I think that for some of these other ones, were there any that we didn't have any comments?
There was 1 or 2.
So I think we take those and
They were minimal.
Are they significant enough where it's going to hold up or can covenants give enough of feedback off of those feedback?
You have my feedback here.
Yes,
yeah.
but here's other committee members.
I understand, but you haven't gotten any.
So, but we're talking about lands, so let's, we also think about your rollout strategy. You're going to train the inspectors, so that all ought to be considered. And again, I think that's gonna have to come from, like, what are we tackling next? What's gonna be the volume, what are you seeing, and then we kind of go. But I think for your, we start with landscaping.
Start with landscaping, we get that one out there.
We vote on-
We communicate to the board that the rest of the committees are gonna come. And then we'll continue to schedule this out. For the more minor ones, I do hope that we can incorporate some of the feedback that we've received from Gary, resident Gary, and then submit that back out to the committees and then say, do we have any strong feelings one way or another? If there's no strong
I
feelings,
do.
then move forward.
And landscaping is timely with obviously everything going on right now.
Correct.
So I think it's gonna be probably good to just focus on that, get it out, let people digest it,
Correct.
but freeze and everything.
The page, not for you, page 14 of what it was before. Doors, standard screens and storm, all that's listed in Gary's thing is make some edit to numbering or something,
Yeah.
that one can go.
Okay,
I mean,
so
it's a
doors
numbering
make sense
thing,
as well.
just do it.
It's a format issue.
Right.
The format issues you mean for.
Okay,
So doors.
There's one more that's like that too, where it's just a formatting thing, so I think all of those that are just formatting issues should be able just to go. That way you have 3 to put out to the community, not just, we only got 1 done.
Well, it's a big, but again, like,
Yes,
that's fun.
okay, so the next proposal is the 9th, right?
Second. Second of
we
March.
have people that can't do the second, so it's not.
I gave the second and the 9th, the 11th, but most, everyone gave their form, but the 11th is out.
Right, so it's
So the
the
second
second,
and the 9th, we do have form.
okay.
But you did a resolution.
Swimming? So, okay, so at the, so at the next meeting, which will be occurring on March 9th,
I'll send out confirmation.
we're gonna plan on finishing fencing at that, and then covering the lighting to try to tackle. And I think that that's what we do, and then we'll determine what we wanna scratch on next.
What's the biggest thing like?
Hey, email on.
Consistent or what?
It's everything, both. I'll have to go back and review, but it's,
And the ones that were okay to go to the board at this point are doors with the formatting edits as brought up. And then the landscaping ones, and if incorporating this feedback as well as any feedback that we may need to consider from Albert.
Just one more. Do you have like I know Smart Webs does it, but do you have a way to compile the specificity of each lighting violation? What you see I know we have obviously the letters and you can't get like a data download.
Not just a lighting, no, I would sort it out, that's fine. You just give me a.
It may be, okay.
Okay, everything.
It's gutters and downspouts is the other one that can go.
Gutters and
it's a
downspouts.
formatting number, the paragraph numbering is incorrect, but
Better downspouts, storage.
it's just numbers. Yeah.
Okay,
So
so doors, landscape, gutters and downspouts.
Oh,
Look at that. That's 3.
well, we may have one more. Yes, signs, common area. That was a hard return on one of the paragraphs. The one sentence is in 3 different lines.
Got it.
So signs, common.
Doors, landscape, gutters, downspouts, signs for common area.
Ooh, that sounds much better than we only did one.
Keep, anyone else? I mean, keep going. Okay, all right, guys, I know this is tedious, but I think these are the questions that we're trying to make it easier for management at the same point in time as well, and just community in general. Look, we all need to be honest with ourselves. The majority of people are not going to read these things until it really impacts them. And so I think that we need to remember that, and that's something that we as a board can educate any new committee members that come on board at that point in time too.
Are we trying to encourage people to read it? I mean, let's be real. Are we really, do we really want them to read it? Or do we really not want them? to read it?
But I think that could be something that, Erica and we take back to Katie for the communications committee, like maybe we need to create some sound bites or something to make this a little bit easier for people to. Because we want to encourage people in this 45-day period to go out and read them.
It's been in money.
Well, I asked that
I
because you
hear
know,
you, but you have to communicate something 7 times in order for someone to read
I
it.
think Facebook is the official communication.
So
Too bad.
I do think too,
no,
from a
I
management
responded and
perspective,
say. you need to
we can
read
talk
that.
about this later, but your plans for rolling this out, making sure it's successful, training everyone, consistency, feel about. That's any other consideration, like how it rolls out in the way that
We need to purchase a rangefinder for each.
But don't you think rolling it out after tonight is better than if we looked at it, everybody looked at it before we did this?
They're still gonna be seeing stars here, changing every one.
Oh, I know, but it's at least it's consistent now.
I feel staggered when I'm maybe.
Do you feel okay overall about, I mean, like, is there anything?
I feel
Overall, these help. 24 is one of those.
Sorry. And then have a motion to adjourn 7:34 p.m. Motion from both sides? Huh? Adjourn.
Later.
Okay. We are adjourned at 7:34. Thank you.
Oh,